Baking and Brewing, brought to you by Bob and Domonic. On this channel, we're always going to be accompanied by a nice cold beverage, probably most always a beer. Now to get down to it. Today we're going to be making biscuits and a London Broil. What's so special? Well, it's going to be gluten-free, dairy-free, and egg-free. So what are we working with today? Well, we've got the basic London Broil top round. We have our onions to help with our base, the chicken broth, and tomato puree. For our sides, spinach. It's always good to have a little green on your plate. And some sweet potatoes. But make sure you have your beer in between. All right. Now it's time to season. First, meat. So we're gonna start with some basic kosher salt. It's important to get it everywhere. You really can't go too heavy, but you can go too light. So just make sure you do a nice even coat on both sides. Flip it. Yeah. Next, about a tablespoon and a half of some lemon pepper. You can do regular pepper if you're not a fan of lemon. I am. You can blame my Hispanic roots for that. I like to rub it on in there too. And last, definitely not least, garlic or ajo. Awesome. Olive oil first. This pan has been heating for a couple minutes now. You always want a nice hot pan. So the oil heats up nice and quickly. Yeah. Moment of truth. So I did the second side a little bit longer than the first side, just so I can re-flip it before I toss in all of my other ingredients for this 2-hour simmer. Beautiful. Where's the onion? Chicken broth. 1.5 cups. That got quiet. 28 ounces of crushed tomatoes. I like the fire roasted. Just call me spicy. Toss this up. Stuff it down the sides. And it's always nice throwing a little bit of fresh herbs, maybe a little bit of fresh ajo. This green stuff is parsley. So I had it on high to do the sear on each side for about 2.5 minutes each on a 2-pound London broil. Now we're gonna turn it to medium, maybe medium low depending on what kind of oven you're using. I'm using an electric stove top, so I'm gonna go right in the middle. Simmer for 2 hours. So now we're prepping the sides. First, sweet potato. One of my favorite kind of potatoes. You know, it's not that sweet, but it tastes a whole lot better than a regular potato. Now that we're done with the cutting, more beer. And now back to the baking part. So we're going to be making biscuits today. Our gluten-free, dairy-free, egg-free biscuits are going to be comprised of Bob's Red Mill 1-to-1 all-purpose flour. It's a good base if you're just starting out. You can use it on almost any recipe with the slight modifications here and there. I always recommend using a scale to measure your flour. It is incredibly difficult to do recipes correctly when you're measuring by using a measuring cup, dipping it into the bag. Scale, much more worth your time and money. Got our flour measured out. We're going to dump it into our mixing bowl. Flour, baking powder, baking soda, and salt. And last but not least, do not forget your sugar. Whisk, whisk, whisk. Now for the wet ingredients. This recipe calls for buttermilk. How do you do that when you're not using any real milk? Well, we're using almond milk and a touch of white vinegar. This helps you create the buttermilk effect that you're looking for. It helps curdle the fats, make it a little bit more divided so that way you can use it in your recipe. We're doing 3/4 cup almond milk and about a tablespoon, a heaping tablespoon of white vinegar. You want to do the buttermilk approximately 5 to 7 minutes before you're about to use it. Set that aside. Now, this recipe calls for eggs. I am going to use flax eggs in this recipe. So we have some ground up flax meal that I then ground up just a little bit more so that way you get a little bit more surface area. I like to use hot water when I do my flax egg. So 2 eggs, 2 heaping tablespoons of ground up flaxseed meal, and 3 tablespoons of hot water per egg. So that's going to be 6 in this recipe. Now make sure you give your flaxseed egg replacement a nice good stir. You want it to be fully incorporated before you start using it. If not, it doesn't quite give you the same success rate. But you know, if you get tired, have another beer. So we've got all the dry ingredients in the bowl. Let's set up the wet guys. I know this may seem difficult, but you know what always makes things a lot more fun? Beer. So now that we've been letting our buttermilk do its thing, and our eggs do its thing, we're gonna start pouring everything in. We're gonna start by adding some cold butter. That way I've been chilling in the freezer for quite some time now. Gonna get that blended in there real nice and thick. I know it says that you can use a pastry cutter or a fork, but I honestly just like using this guy. Makes it a lot easier, things go a lot quicker, and it won't melt. All right, this is looking perfectly crumbly. So now, combine the egg with our buttermilk. Really quick, which is exactly what you want. I have whisks of all sizes. Make a welt, preferably right in the middle. And grab your spatula, fold it in as if you were kneading by hand. Now we're about to get to the real messy part. So before I get my hands dirty, I'm gonna have another sip. You want to flour your surface beforehand. You want to flour the bottom and the top. Now, I'm looking for about a 1/4 inch thickness, maybe a 1/2 inch, since we're not using eggs. doesn't seem to rise that high, so you don't want to flatten it out too much, and you don't want to make it any denser. So the key here is to keep it nice and rectangular, gentle across the dough. You're gonna fold it in thirds. One more time. Now it's the final roll. Feel free to move around your board. Definitely helps from a different angle. Roll it to about an inch. So now that you've rolled it out really gently, we're going to start using our little ramekin here to make our biscuits. Worth dipping in flour so it doesn't stick to the edges. Just have a bowl of flour that we started with. Press. Don't want to twist too much. Dip, press, lift. It's the motto here. Biscuits lined up in a row. Gonna do a light brushing of some of the buttermilk that we put aside. One of the trick things about gluten-free flour is you really gotta let them absorb all the moisture. Give it a little extra time to sit. It's worth the wait, I promise. Now that we're almost done with our roast, we want to start doing the side dishes about 20-25 minutes beforehand. Get a nice hot pan of olive oil going. We've got our diced sweet potato. That goes in first. Final part, cutting. You always want to cut against the grain. So make sure you look at where the lines go and then just turn it at like a 45-degree angle. Tongs and knife is the safest way to do it. And then look at that bad boy. Ooh. Ooh, it's just falling apart. Yummy. Cheers to your dinner.